Serious. How did you almost die? Please remember to like, share, and subscribe. Childbirth. Not joking. Something tore that shouldn't have torn. The cord was wrapped twice around the baby's neck, baby nearly strangled, and I nearly bled out. A few minutes later to the hospital, and neither one of us would have made it. Was exploring in the hay barn on my parents' farm. Managed to get myself wedged hard in a hole between bales, so much so that I could barely breathe. Cried out for help, and the dog alerted my father, who suddenly turned into a superhuman and got me out. I was home, have Meniere's, and had been recently diagnosed. I was tired. Friend came over, going on and on about going to the hospital. She threatened to call my parents. I was 45. I just wanted her to shut up and go away so I could sleep. Don't recall exactly how I got to the hospital, but apparently had a temp of 104.6. Was there 10 days and went home on oxygen. After the docs in spacesuits ruled out TB and cut into my lungs, it was just pneumonia. I probably wouldn't be here if she hadn't forced the issue. Kid at summer camp jumped off the dock into the lake too soon after me, landed on me underwater. The impact pushed my feet down into the lake mud, acted like a suction up to my shins. The lake counselor guy jumped in and scooped sand away with his hands so I could swim up. 0 out of 10. Would not recommend. I once took 500 milligrams of DPH, diphenhydramine, which is the ingredient in Benadryl that gets you really effed up. The come up was around 1 after I took it and started to feel strange. I had taken this before when I was addicted, but was feeling really depressed. So I went 200 milligrams higher than my normal dose, which was a horrible decision. I was shaking violently about 2 hours in and threw up around 3 times. Can't recall how many exactly. I probably should have gone to the hospital or called poison control, but was scared that my parents would get mad, but rightfully so. I was also hallucinating much more and my heart was racing. I truly believe that I could have died. Now, I wouldn't touch that stuff with a 50-foot pole. Stay away from that shit. Was almost strangled to death by my cousin when I was younger. One time from a penicillin allergy when I was a baby, then nearly drowned as a child. When I was 16, I was sitting on the ramparts outside of the main gate of Neuschwanstein Castle. I was sitting too far back and started to tip backwards and nearly fell to the trees and the forest below had it not been for a fast-thinking American tourist who grabbed me by the ankles. Gnarly bike accident. Was hauling ass on an electric bike. Something made the tire get stuck and throw me off. My mouth broke. My fall on the edge of a curb bounced off my teeth and slid on my chest. Totally destroyed my teeth and literally broke my jaw off on either side, the mandible. Been a long road to recovery, but just about all back to normal now. Teeth will be even better than they were before, haha. As for the almost dying aspect, the surgeon told me that for me to have hit hard enough to do that much damage to my jaw, it's actually a miracle I didn't impact virtually any other spot, like higher up my face or my head, because I'd likely be dead or at least a vegetable. Scary shit. Made me look at life differently ever since. Adenomyosis. Basically, my reproductive system grows cysts like every month. One day, one of them burst and I was bleeding internally. Begged my boyfriend, now ex, to take me to the ER, where he complained that I was embarrassing him with my expressions of pain. Turns out, I lost 1/3 of my blood internally, like getting shot, the nurse told me. Storm. A big tree fell over me because it was raining hell, and I really don't know how, but I managed to jump to my side and just get a few scratches on my left arm. Got crushed by a roll door about 11 to 12 years ago. It really hit my spine, but apparently it's fine. Actually, it's one of my earliest childhood memories. Probably was different than I remember. When I was less than 5, I had a serious pneumonia infection, was in the hospital for a week, had to use a nebulizer, I think 2 times a day for a month, then use an inhaler for I don't know how long. Suicide attempt with sleeping meds and alcohol. I think I didn't take enough to overdose because I woke up the next day and went to school like normal. Got hit by a car on my way to school, broke my right arm and right leg, 2 fractured wrists, several torn tendons, road rash, and a minor brain injury that rendered me deaf, A week in the ICU, and several surgeries later, good as new, with some fancy new cochlear implants. I fell from a rock to the water. It was about frozen, but the real danger was that perfectly could be a big rock underwater and hit with it. Huh? Way back in 1991, me and 3 friends decided to go for a weekend getaway to West Wales. We got there after a long drive and found a field in which to pitch our tents. Then we broke out the alcohol. I got slaughtered on red wine and beer and wandered off around the field for a bit. I dropped the wine bottle, couldn't find it, gave up looking and headed back. Guided by the light of the campfire, I crashed out in my tent about 5 minutes later. The next morning, one of my friends drags me out of my tent, angrily tells me to get dressed and follow him. I stagger after him, nursing a crippling hangover and wondering why he's so pissed off with me. I spot the empty wine bottle and think it's because I dropped it. Nope. As he pointed out, the bottle was about 20 yards from the edge of a cliff. If I'd wandered much further, I'd have gone 200 feet straight into the sea. If I hadn't hit the rocks first, sobered me up in seconds. Ate strawberries out of plastic containers when I was 5. No one knew I was allergic. I was found unresponsive on the kitchen floor. Paramedics had to defib me, and I spent 9 days in the ICU. Haven't had a strawberry in 30 years. Hey guys, this is the narrator here, telling you a quick story about my life and how something could have been really bad. So as some of you know, I was in the US military. I was a Marine, and we were in Korea doing a cross-training with South Korean military at their mountain warfare training center. So they wanted us to do a belay course, or a rappelling course, and they had a rope ladder that climbed up to a thing that was hoisted up by some type of wires, and you had the line that you would rappel down. Now, 99.99 times, we would always rappel in the classic style you see in the movies when they come down like buildings or walls with your back facing the ground and you're bounding off a wall. On occasion, you would rappel out of a helicopter where there is no ground, so you're just using your back hand to hold you in place. Our company commander was a captain, and I was a newly minted corporal, so they elected me to be the first person down. So we have 230 Marines at the bottom of this basin, the bottom of which was just a sand pit. There was no safety measures, really. And I had to climb up this rickety, old wooden ladder that was ascending into heaven because there was only a platform up there, and no one at the top spoke any English. So it's just me, a bunch of Korean guys, and I'm tying into a rope that you could see is clearly frayed. So I asked the guy, I'm like, is this safe? And he looked at me and just gives a thumbs up. I'm like, okay. And then they wanted us to jump Australian style, which is forward. So I'm looking at the ground and 230 Marines on a rope that looks like I made it. But you're 20 years old, you're invincible. So I just did it. I jumped face first, opened up my line. Now your brake hand is your chest instead of your back when you jump forward. And I'd never done it before. But I pulled the rope taut and I made it. So it could have been really bad. If the rope didn't work, I would have splatted in front of 230 friends. But I'm here telling you that story. So that's it. Have a great day. Love you.